Welcome to Odoo. Odoo is a modular collection of apps, and one major strength is the powerful integration between all of them, which gives you seamless workflows. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Another major strength is that it's very user-friendly. Every user in your company can have customized access rights between the different apps. Maybe they're a user, maybe they're a manager level, maybe they don't have access at all. And it can get very granular down to specific fields, whether they can read, write, or edit it. Every user has a lot of preferences that they can control as well. For example, choose dark mode if you prefer. And keep in mind that Odoo is completely mobile compatible, so it works on a phone, on a tablet, or in the free Odoo app for iOS or Android. Another way that we keep it user-friendly is with our Knowledge app, which is like an onboarding guide to help employees do their job in Odoo more easily. From to-do checklists, to email templates, to FAQs. All of the knowledge content is completely yours to create, and it's integrated throughout the platform. Flexibility is also a huge strength of Odoo. You'll see as we go that it's super easy to completely modify the platform to meet your needs, even if you don't know how to develop or write any code. For example, as you can see, just from the home screen, I could change the background, or I could create a whole new custom app using our Studio module. As we go along, you'll see that it's very easy to customize the platform. Let's go into our Contacts app to see how Odoo handles all of your important data. Here's our contacts directory of individuals, companies, customers, and vendors displayed in a Kanban view, which is nice and visual. However, you might prefer to work in list view. Choose the view that works best for you. Keep in mind that any set of data can be imported into Odoo via CSV or Excel file, and we have templates for all of that. It's easy to work with even huge sets of data in Odoo. Even with millions of records, I can quickly apply filters, like only viewing actual companies, for example. Filters can stack together, too, and the loading time is super fast. Or you can organize your data by grouping, like grouping everything by city. Any field of data can be used in the filtering, and if I like this particular search and I want to use it a lot, I might save it as a favorite for future use. Of course, another good way to look at your contacts is through the map view, and Odoo has you covered there. Let's check out a specific contact, like this company, Lumber Inc. This right here is a typical form view in Odoo. You have pretty straightforward fields, like whether it's a company or not, the address, and some key contact information. Additional info down below is organized like any nested contacts, such as individuals or shipping addresses, or the salesperson assigned to the account. Like I had said earlier, Odoo is incredibly flexible as a software, so keep in mind that these are all just default fields and layouts. If I have the access, I can activate our powerful customization tool, Odoo Studio. It changes the interface and lets us modify and create across all the different apps and modules in Odoo. For example, I might rename a field, or I might create my own. In this case, let's put in a date field and call it birthday, because I like to be able to wish my customers happy birthday. You just drag and drop, and now you're developing with clicks rather than code. There's a lot more you can do with Studio, like creating whole new connections between your apps, modifying your menus, all the way to drag and drop editing of any printable PDF documents like invoices and purchase orders. Odoo Studio and the overall customizability is truly one of Odoo's biggest strengths. The last thing I'll point out here on the contact is that the real power of Odoo's integration comes from these smart buttons along the top. They're directly connected to real-time data like any meetings you've ever had, any sales orders, the amount you've invoiced them, and so on. You can always click directly into a smart button to access the records. We'll revisit this later, but it's time to get into some day-to-day workflows and show how Odoo is able to make companies operate much more efficiently. For this demonstration today, we're going to do a single sales transaction that kicks off automated processes throughout your whole company. Let's imagine that we have a new prospect that we just met that needs a quotation from us. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go straight into the Sales app. The Sales app home screen is no nonsense. It's just a list of all quotations and sales orders you have. I'll make a new one. And by the way, if it saves you any time, there are hotkeys to do anything. So I can hold the Alt key and press C, and it's the same as clicking the New button. Pro tip right there. Here's our new quotation. First, for customer, you'll see that it points directly to the contacts database that we were looking at. So if it's an existing customer, you can find it immediately. But in this workflow, let's say that this is a brand new customer we've never worked with before. Not a problem. Odoo makes it really easy to create new records on the fly. It's flexible like that. So I'll start typing in the name. John Customer. I could make a really basic record, but I'll click Create and Edit so that it'll do a pop-up where I can fill out the main address. Pop-ups like this are super easy to edit quickly, and then you can always jump back in to whatever you were doing without losing your place. Save and close, and I'm right back on my quotation. I could choose a different billing address if I wanted to, and I could choose a different delivery address, but I'm going to keep things simple for today's workflow. So, what am I quoting? In this demonstration today, I'm going to sell two separate products. The first is a finished product that I conveniently have named Finished Product, and it's something that I manufacture and I assemble it before I can ship it out. This little green availability icon informs me that it's replenished on demand. In other words, it's a make-to-order product. The way that this product is set up in our system is extremely critical. If I click on it for more information, you'll see that I have it specially configured to be manufactured as needed when I sell it. And you'll see that there's a bill of materials associated with it, consisting of two components that I'm going to put together to build it. Each component has its own settings as well. You'll see what happens in a minute. Using these convenient breadcrumbs along the top, I'm going to navigate back to our quotation. The other product I'm going to quote is not a physical good. Instead, it's a service called consulting service. We'll talk about that more later. So now my quotation looks good. Let's go ahead and we can send it out to our customer. I can send by email, and Odoo will immediately warn me that I'm missing something critical. Well, of course, I need to enter the actual email for the customer. Thanks, Odoo, always looking out. Here is a basic email template with the quote number, the total, and a generated PDF document. Note that all of this PDF document is easy to edit and modify through the drag and drop tools you have with Studio if you want it to look different. But it's fine. I'll go ahead and hit send. And now the quotation moves into quotation sent status. Now I'm going to scroll down to highlight an extraordinarily important feature of Odoo. Anything below this line here is called the chatter. Or, if I zoom out enough, the chatter jumps over to the right side if you prefer that. It's adaptable to your screen. So, what is the chatter? Well, it provides a few major benefits. For one thing, it's a history of everything that's ever happened with this quotation, including timestamps and an audit trail of who did what when. It also controls all of the external communication. So that email we just sent, it's stored as a copy with the attachment right here. It also embeds a catch-all bit of code, so if the customer replies to this email, his reply is going to immediately appear both in your regular email inbox and it'll show up here in the chatter. Send additional emails from here if you want, and the integration to the Knowledge app that we saw earlier is a great way to get pointers and select your own saved email templates as well. Aside from external communication, the chatter is also very useful for internal notes and internal communication. So you can grab any attachment, like this PDF right here, and use the @ sign to tag any of your coworkers. It's an amazing tool for collaboration across your organization. For example, a salesperson could instantly tag someone in the finance team, or a manufacturing worker might tag a supply chain manager. The way that tags work is that this user, Gilbert, will now get an email with the note, the attachment, and most importantly, a clickable link that will teleport him directly to this screen for instant collaboration. It'll also pop up in the Discuss channel up here, which consolidates all internal communication, as you can see here. If you want, using Discuss, you can immediately initiate a video call if needed, because sometimes that's the best way to communicate. It helps bring people together, whether in the same office or if they're across the world. Last thing I'll say about the chatter is that it's an excellent way to stay on top of your activities. So I could schedule a call for a couple days from now to follow up on this quotation. Might even assign it to my coworker. All of my activities across Odoo are tracked up here in the activities pop-up, which lets you know what is due today, or in the future, or might even be overdue. It's a great way to make sure things don't fall through the cracks. Keep in mind that the Chatter functionality here is a universal tool. You'll see it everywhere, from purchase orders to manufacturing to deliveries to invoices and so on. It's something you're going to want to take full advantage of. So, back to our story of this customer and his quotation. He might call me on the phone to say he wants to move forward, and I could just click confirm to confirm the sale. That would work, but another amazing feature of Odoo is what we call online quotations. So instead of just sending a PDF and that's it, you might prefer to give him a link to his unique online version of that same quote. I'll click Customer Preview to show you what he would see. So here is our online quotation. It's the same information as what the PDF quote has, but it has some huge advantages. Most importantly, it's interactive. So if we pretend that I'm now the customer and I'm looking at this, I might want to write a quick message right here. This way we don't have to go back and forth via email or phone, we could just communicate right here in the portal. Anything written here goes straight to the chatter on the back end. But the most important type of interaction is over here. The customer can accept and sign directly from this online quotation. Not only that, but you could have them enter their credit card or ACH information to pay you immediately. In this case, though, a signature is just fine because I'm going to be collecting the money later. It lets me know the order has been confirmed. So now let's go to the back end and see what has happened. So this is where the true power of Odoo comes into play. We'll see that our quotation is now an actual sales order. And more importantly, these smart buttons have all been created. We now have a task, a delivery, and a manufacturing order all instantly created because of the way that we set up these products. With the integration, it's all directly connected. For now, I'm going to focus on the finished product. We need to ship it out as a delivery to the customer, but first, we need to manufacture it. Now I can click on the button here, and immediately I'm looking at the manufacturing order MO number 7 to assemble it. However, just to highlight the way that everything is connected, let's get out of the sales app. I'm taking off my salesperson hat now, and I'm putting on my manufacturing worker hat. Imagine that I am now the person in charge of manufacturing, and I see that in the manufacturing app, a new manufacturing order has just appeared right here. We can see the source, which is sales order number 32, and I also see the component status, which is important. I do not have all the components available, but it's due today, so I should pay attention to it. Clicking into the manufacturing order, we can see that we have to create quantity 1 of the finished product scheduled for today. I'll go ahead and make myself responsible for this manufacturing order. That way, if anybody in sales wants to check on it, they'll know who they can ask. Down below, we see the components that are needed, component 1 and component 2. Component 1 has green availability, and if I click on it, we'll see why. Yeah, we have 50 on hand. So after we consume 1 for this manufacturing order, we'll have 49 left over. Not a problem. Going back to the manufacturing order, we'll see that the real blocking point is component 2. If I click on the forecast, we'll see I have none on hand in my inventory. And I need to consume 1, so technically my forecast is currently a -1. However, the good news is that the system has auto-generated a draft purchase order called an RFQ, or request for quotation, number PO13. I could click on it here if I want to from the manufacturing app, but instead, let's change our role yet again, and we're going to switch over to being a purchasing and supply chain manager. We'll get back to this manufacturing order in just a minute, but for now, I'll be hopping over to the Purchase app for a quick purchasing interlude. So, here is the Purchasing app. It has some nice quick KPIs and indicators of how things are going in my department, but I'm really focused on finishing this manufacturing order, so let's go straight to our newly created purchase order, number 13. Now you'll see that this RFQ was created for us automatically because there was suddenly a demand for it. And that's because of how we have this component set up. We set a minimum level on it. That's an example of reordering rules in Odoo, which helps you to avoid running out of goods. It's dynamic though, so if it remains in this draft RFQ stage, over time it is going to continuously add more quantities and items as long as it's the same vendor. So it consolidates instead of having way too many unnecessary RFQs and purchase order records. I can also change the quantity and manually override it if I want, because I have a lot of control as a purchasing manager. Anyhow, let's email this RFQ out. It works very similarly to the quoting and selling process that we saw earlier. If I want to, I could send it like this without any prices on it, because I'm requesting a quotation on a price from the vendor. However, if I change the template from RFQ over to purchase order, then it immediately changes the text in the email. Now it has the actual total listed, but it also changes the PDF as well immediately. Now that has totals listed as well. So it's very dynamic and it gives me flexibility and control. Anyway, let's go ahead and click send. As you can see, a copy of the email shows up in the chatter. And let's say that the vendor replies with a confirmation, and I'm going to see that in real time in the chatter. So I'm going to go ahead and click confirm, and instantly we'll see the integration at play as it has created a new incoming receipt shipment within our warehouse. Let's take a look at that receipt shipment. So I can access the receipt from the purchase order like I just did, but it's also going to show up in the inventory app as well for your warehouse workers to see. The incoming receipt is pretty straightforward. It says who is it coming from, when to expect it, and what will be included. If it helps you, you might choose to print this out as a picking operations sheet, which looks like this. You can even do everything with barcodes if you'd like. You'll see that every shipment has a barcode assigned to it, each product has its own barcode, and you can handle it all through scanning just to go fast. In this quick example, let's say some time goes by and now our shipment has arrived. I'll just set quantities to indicate that we received the entire shipment and click validate to officially receive the goods into our stock. You'll see the receipt shipment is now done and now the products are in our stock. If I use my breadcrumbs to navigate back to the purchase order, you'll see that these columns down here have updated in real time. So the quantity ordered is 15, and now I've received 15 as well. Eventually I can enter a vendor bill for it to go to accounts payable, but that's for another day. For now, we've finished with our little purchasing interlude, so let's get back to our manufacturing order because our client's waiting for us. Okay, I'm going to imagine myself as that manufacturing floor manager again. If I look at my list of manufacturing orders, you'll see that the component status has now automatically updated from not available over to available, and it's green. In fact, you might want to use this filter here to only look at the manufacturers that have the components ready. Let's click into it. Now that we have all the necessary components reserved, let's get to work. I might need to refer to some instructions, or I might log a note in the chatter to update progress as I go. But in this simple manufacturing example, let's say that after an hour or so I've completed the assembly. I'm just going to go ahead and click Produce All, and our assembly is now done and complete. We now have these helpful smart buttons up at the top that show us important things like the stock moves that are associated with it, and the cost analysis of all components and operations. I should point out that this was an extremely basic example of manufacturing in Odoo. It can get significantly more advanced and more robust if needed through things like time tracking, work instructions, planning, quality management, but we can save all of that for another day. For now, our customer really needs his finished product. In case I forgot who this is for, I could always click on this Sale Smart button, and I'm right back on our original sales order. The last thing to do with our finished product is to ship it out. So, as always, I could click on the delivery from the sale, and that would work. But let me change roles one more time, and now I'm going to pretend to be a warehouse worker. As a warehouse worker, I'm most likely to be working in the inventory app. This is the inventory app dashboard. You'll see different boxes here that represent your main warehouse operations like incoming receipts, internal transfers, and outbound deliveries. We're a pretty busy warehouse, so there's a lot of things to handle, some of which are waiting availability, some of which might even be overdue. I'm just going to get right into it. Luckily, it's easy to see which one matters to me because I can see both the source sales order number and, more importantly, the customer's name. Like always in Odoo, you might want to choose different views. For example, this calendar view is particularly useful with warehouse deliveries. I might choose to reschedule some deliveries just through drag and drop, and I can immediately filter down to just the deliveries for a particular customer if I want. Getting into the delivery itself, You'll see that the finished product has automatically been reserved to this shipment the moment we finished manufacturing it. At this point, it's time to get it out the door and on its way to our customer. I'll click Validate right here, and the delivery is now complete. The finished product has left our warehouse, so we have now deducted one finished product from our stock. Great, that completes our first main workflow. As you saw, from a single sales order, we were able to kick off the process to assemble a make-to-order product, trigger a purchase order to receive a component, put it all together, and then ship it out. For our second main workflow, let's go back to our same sales order for John customer. We were working on the finished product before, but now let's focus on this consulting service. I'm going to briefly click into the consulting service product to show you how this works. You can see that it's a service type product, not physical. We're going to invoice our customer based on the time that we track, and it has generated a specific task within the Odoo project app in a project called After Sales Services. So because of these settings, that's why we were able to automatically create this task the moment that we confirm the sales order. As you can see, the way that your products are set up in the system is extremely important for how you want to manage your automated workflows. Don't worry though, if you need help, there are a lot of options for professional setup assistance when you're working with Odoo. So to highlight how integrated it all is, I could click on the Task Smart button right here from the sales order. But for the sake of this demonstration, I think it's better if we switch roles yet again. So let's pretend I'm now a consultant at my company and I provide professional consulting advice to the client. I'm going to do most of my work from the Odoo project app. As you can see in the Odoo project app, you can have many different projects. Some projects might represent a one-time initiative, like renovations. Others might basically represent a whole department or a whole team, like research and development. For our customer, we're using this project called After Sales Services as sort of an overall bucket of similar services being billed to clients. If I click into it, you'll see that this Kanban view keeps track of all the specific tasks that belong here, each one linked to a different sales order and customer. The Kanban stages are fully customizable, so I could add an additional stage like on hold, for example. And you might prefer to view your tasks in a list view, which lets me see the progress over time. But I like Kanban view for project tasks because it's easy for me to move a task from one stage to another. Let's get into the task for our customer. The task is pretty straightforward. I can assign it to myself or multiple team members if I want to. Since I'm already on the clock, I'm going to go ahead and hit the Start button. The time tracking comes directly from the seamless integration of our projects and our timesheets module. Another quick example of Odoo's customizability is the property fields. It's a quick, easy way to add special fields, sort of like our Studio tool, but it's more openly available to users, and it has the advantage that property fields are unique to their parent. In other words, this new checkbox field that I just made will only be available on tasks within this specific after-sales project. You're not going to see it on other projects. You can have as many unique property fields as you want. It's just another example of giving you flexibility. So when I'm working on a task, I might need to be very specific about the notes and the description related to it. Every task is different. Luckily, any long-form text field like this in Odoo has a whole toolbox to work with. If I hit the /, I have a ton of formatting tools and content I can add. I could add a to-do checklist, or I could add a table with specific headers at the top, or I could add a button that has some sort of a text where you click on it and it'll take you to some sort of specific URL, or even embed an image from a huge internet archive and edit it after. It's honestly pretty fun, but I shouldn't go too overboard since I'm technically billing my client for hours right now. Let's take a quick break by hitting stop. I actually have this database configured to round up to the nearest 15 minutes. It's just our corporate policy. I'll hit save right there for that timesheet entry, and if I hit the timesheets tab right here, you'll see that it has automatically generated a timesheet entry. So the start-stop, that's definitely one way to enter time, but perhaps I also spent some time face-to-face with the client, but I just didn't have my computer or my phone with me. So another option is to just manually add a line right here. I'll go ahead and record an hour spent with the client face-to-face. And now you'll see that overall, I've spent more time than I initially anticipated. Let's say that my services are done, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark this task as done. Real quick, You'll see that I have it automatically set up to send out this email, which gives the customer a link to a survey. It sent it out to him the moment that I marked it as done. And that's just another example of easy automation to save time and be more efficient. Now, we're nearly done with all of our workflow. The last thing to do is also probably the most important. It's time to get paid. So let's go back to where it all started, our sales order. If we look at the delivered column here for our consulting service, we'll see that it is logged the full time. But for both products, we have not invoiced anything at all yet. So let's go ahead and do that. In fact, in Odoo, the next logical thing to do is often highlighted in green at the top for us. Thanks a lot, Odoo. I'll click Create Invoice. I could do a down payment if I wanted to, either as a percentage or a fixed amount. And I could even invoice for a specific timesheet period, like if I'm invoicing just for the week or the month. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do a regular invoice. And here we are, an invoice. It's currently in the draft state, which means it hasn't actually posted anything to our accounting books yet. We can change whatever we want in this stage without messing up our accounting. You'll see that it has the same items as our sales order and the same quantities, and it's invoicing the amount that we actually delivered, which is good. Now, I'm still in the sales app right now, but you might want to set up your company so that salespeople are allowed to create the draft invoice, but only the accounting team can actually confirm and validate that invoice. In which case, as a salesperson, I wouldn't see this confirm button. Let's go ahead and switch roles one last time. I'm going to go into our accounting app. Here's the accounting dashboard where I monitor my different journals and my account activity. We can explore all of this in a later demo, but for now, I'm just going to go straight into my invoices to validate. And here's that invoice. As an accountant, if I want to, I could change the accounts that are being used, or I could change the dates, or the reference number. And it's great that if I have any questions, I could always ask the salesperson directly. But in this case, it all looks fine to me, so I'm going to go ahead and confirm this invoice. As soon as I do that, the invoice officially posts, and you'll see this journal entry has been created here with the credits and debits hitting the correct accounts. And that's all good, but we still need the client to actually pay us. So I can send the invoice as a PDF attachment in an email, and I can even print it out and mail it. That would work just fine. But just like we saw earlier with the online quotation, we have a more modern solution for invoices. We have the online version of the invoice. So I can click Preview, and this is what the customer might see. The online version of that same invoice at a unique private URL that you can share with them. Just like we saw with the quotation earlier, they can interact with it and they can communicate directly with you. Most importantly, you can have it set up to collect their payment. So I'll enter my credit card as if I were the real customer, and maybe I'll save my payment details so I can use it for future purchases. The processing took a few seconds, and ta-da, John customer has now paid for the full invoice for the finished product and for the consulting service. Our story of this order is now complete. While we're here on the customer portal, one of the biggest benefits that your clients can gain from Odoo is right here under My Account. As you can see, in addition to quotations and invoices, you can give your customers direct access to their tasks, to their timesheets, and so on. Whatever you choose to share, they can view it all from here. It's a powerful way to stay connected with your clients and give them direct visibility. In fact, they can benefit from the integrations because from just their sales order, they can see updates for things like their invoice, their outbound delivery order, and the manufacturing order, all updated in real time. And on the back end, of course, you're always going to have that 360 view of everything related to your customer. So if we revisit the contacts and look up your customer, we'll easily see that the sales activity, the project task, the invoiced amount, the payment history is all in one place. Last but not least, it's important to highlight just how robust Odoo is in terms of reporting and putting you in control of your data. There are a ton of different ways to access it, and Odoo makes it really easy. First, you should know that every app in Odoo has its own specific reporting. Inside Sales, if I click Reporting up here, this right here is a quick graphical view of sales over time. I might choose to view it as a bar graph instead, or maybe as a pie chart. And I can use any field of data, so instead of looking at sales by date, I might choose to report on the different products that I have, or maybe just the product categories. And it's interactive too, so I can always toggle off certain categories. Let's look at reporting as a warehouse manager inside the inventory app. There are a variety of different reporting types in inventory, but I'm interested in my stock report. This shows me all the quantities of products in my catalog, including how much I have on hand and how much is free to use and not allocated. One of the best things about Odoo reports is that they're usually very interactive. So I could click on the history of any product, like my component 2, to see all of the stock moves, like when I received it and when I used one in manufacturing. Or I could do an adjustment right then and there to update the quantity if I need to. I could trigger replenishment to order more, and I could see the full forecast info. Now let's go to our Purchase app to show a very different kind of report that's very powerful. This right here is a pivot report, which lets you choose whatever we want on the x-axis, like my vendors, and whatever we want on the y-axis, like my products. Then you can choose which measures you're actually putting in your report. I'm fine with seeing the quantity of products ordered. And I can choose whatever particular date range, like this month. It's extra helpful if I want to compare it to a previous period, like the month before that. Now it's showing each one side by side before and after, with the variation as a percentage. And as always, if I like the report I've configured, I can save it as a favorite. So those basic report types, like graphs, lists, and pivots, they already give me a lot of power. But let's go further. Odoo has this amazing built-in spreadsheets tool. It's like our own version of Excel or Google Sheets. I'm going to take this purchase analysis pivot, and I'm going to send it into a new blank spreadsheet. And here we have it. We've generated an Odoo sheet, and it looks just like our pivot table, but now I can manipulate it just like we could with Excel. For example, I could take the average of a row or a column that we have here. It's extremely versatile, and it allows us to feed in data from a lot of different sources across Odoo to have the data compare and interact all in real time. It's a great way to gain business intelligence. And if I need to, I can always download it as an Excel file to export it. And for our final reporting tool I'll cover, I'm going to check out my dashboards, which is helpful for all users, but especially for managers. Odoo comes with a lot of pre-built dashboards for all of the different apps. Basically, it's fed in real time with your data, and it displays things like KPIs, like graphs, and leaderboard lists of key information like your top quotations or your top sales orders. Of course, because it's integrated, the data is all clickable, and it's all interactive. We have the dashboards pre-configured specially for all of our apps, so I have an inventory on hand dashboard and a timesheets dashboard too. And there are specific filters you could use at the top that you can use to narrow the information down immediately. Nice, apparently I'm the top employee. Perhaps best of all, to highlight again the flexibility of our platform, any of these dashboards is completely editable. In fact, you'll see that all of the dashboards are actually built directly using Odoo Sheets. So that means if you want to change the top 10 over to a top 20, go right ahead. Not only that, but you can build your own dashboards from scratch completely using whatever data you want across Odoo. The possibilities are endless. I hope that gives you a good understanding of the key strengths of Odoo, whether it's helping your sales reps send quotations, to enabling your warehouse workers to ship and receive quickly, or just collect money from your open invoices. Odoo brings amazing integration, modern usability, and complete flexibility to your business. Thank you for watching.